So today we're going to talk about you can negotiate anything. You can negotiate anything, including a 4-step salary negotiation method. So the basic steps for any negotiation are the following. First, you need to prepare. You need to do your research. Learn everything you can about the company, the product, the job, the people with whom you're going to be negotiating. Know what you want to get out of the process. Second step is to open. You identify your needs. You demonstrate to the other party that you know what you're doing, you've done your homework, you know the marketplace. You state your case. You paint the context of your negotiation. You verify your needs, and you position yourself to frame the outcome. Step 3, exchanging views. Now, some people will call this arguing. Simply, it's exchanging views with the other party. Try to weaken the other party's argument by minimizing the benefits to you, and try to strengthen your argument by maximizing the benefits for them. Step 4 in the process, exploration. Explore different options. Find the areas on which you can both agree. Find some areas of difference that could be amplified into agreements. And then find ways to reach agreement by looking to the criteria for an outcome. Move forward by keeping your main goal clear and flexible. Step 5, signal you're ready to move forward. Both parties should let it be known that they're ready to move forward. Show the other party you're ready, and then you move towards concession and you find common ground. Part 6, the package. The deal has not yet been finalized, so you need to keep an open mind to different possibilities. Identify agreeable trades. Put together some potential agreements. So if you give me this, I'll give you that. Have your package ready and make sure it satisfies both sides. Then the close. This signals that you're moving towards an agreement and you're going to agree on all the details. So for example, you will be signing a contract if you're purchasing a product. You may be signing a letter of agreement in the case of a job, or you may be signing a lease in the case of an apartment rental. And step 8, keep your word. When it's all over, make sure that neither party can back out of the agreement. Give each person an important role. Align rewards with desired behaviors. Use formal rituals to confirm that a change is taking place. So for example, if it's a new job, they may have a special promotion for you, a press release, or they may have a little event for you, a breakfast or a lunch. But most important, keep your word. So what are the basic keys to negotiation before we get into some examples? Build rapport with the other person. Decide in advance what you really want. What are your must-haves and what are your nice-to-haves? Find out what the other person wants. Practice active listening. Pay close attention to the other person. And don't get attached to a single outcome. Try to be flexible. Look for win-win opportunities that will provide benefits both to the other person and to you. Explore options rather than making offers. Don't push the other person into a corner. And when you're not sure what to say, keep quiet. Ask a question or make a neutral observation. Test for agreement as you go along, which is very typical for sales pitches too. You'll notice that when you try to buy something, the salesperson will try to get you to say yes to little things before the big ask. So here's one example of a negotiation. Let's say you want to buy a used bicycle. If you're the seller, you bought this bicycle over 8 years ago, it cost you over $400, but you're willing to accept $100. If you're the buyer, you go to a flea market, you're looking for used bicycles, you want to negotiate the price. Looks like the bicycle could be worth $100, but you'd be happy to get it for less than that. So you take a look at the bike and you say to the seller, well, what are you asking for this bike? And the seller says, well, $200. And then you could say something like, well, it's pretty old and it's a little bit beat up. Would you take $50? And then you keep negotiating and hopefully you'll get to 100 because you're willing to spend the 100 and the seller knows very well that it's not worth 200. it's going to be 100. Here's another example. Renting an apartment. Now, this is not a purchase. This is a rental. So if you're the prospective tenant, you're going to meet the landlord. It's a tiny little apartment on the top of a 4-story walk-up, very popular in New York. The asking price is $1,200 a month. You want to try to negotiate down to $1,000 a month. Or if the electricity is included, maybe to $1,100 a month. So you're the landlord. If you're the landlord, you know your apartment is very small. It has a living room and a kitchen, plus a tiny bedroom and a tiny shower and toilet. You've been trying to get $1,200 a month for it, but no one is biting. You're prepared to reduce the rent to $1,100 a month if a reliable tenant presents him or herself. The electricity is low, so you'll be prepared to include the cost of electricity in the rent. So when you have this conversation with the landlord, you can say, you know, I like the apartment. I've got a steady job, so it's easy for me. But, you know, it is on the 4th floor, and I've got to walk up, and it is kind of tiny. How about renting it to me for $1,000? And then the landlord might say to you, well, okay, well, $1,000 is a little too low, but if I put in the electricity, would you go for $1,100? And you say, sure, I'll go for $1,100. I mean, these are very short examples of the type of thing you might want to do, but they give you an example of give and take. You need to be sure about what you must have and what would be nice to have. Okay, so the 4-step salary negotiation process. Now the rest of this is going to be talking about how do you negotiate your salary and your compensation package for a job. First of all, you need to create a foundation for negotiation. Do not talk about salary until after an offer is made. If you talk about salary before they've even offered you a job, the employer is in the driver's seat. If you talk about after you've been offered the job, then you're in the driver's seat. What are the 4 steps in negotiation? Creating the foundation, outshining and outlasting the competition, getting the offer, and negotiating after you get the offer. So let's start with the first one. Negotiate the job before you negotiate the salary. Find out specifically what are the roles and responsibilities. Oftentimes, there are a lot more things involved in a job than what's in the job description. Second thing is you need to know what you are worth. You need to do your research and find out what are people getting paid for this similar job in this city. So you're going to negotiate the job. You may come up with some other kinds of activities or responsibilities or roles that you could play in addition to the ones that are listed in the job description. When you discuss those, make sure the hiring manager agrees with you that, yeah, that would be a good part of the job, or yeah, we need someone who can do that. When you follow up after your interviews, you need to highlight these additional roles and responsibilities. Know what you're worth in the marketplace. If you're changing locations, consider the cost of living in different cities. This is just an example of comparing Miami to other cities. You compare the cost of living in Miami to New York. New York is a lot more expensive. Phoenix is less expensive than Miami. Dallas is less expensive. Anchorage, Alaska is more money, and Chicago is more money. These were taken from payscale.com. So where you're going to do your research to find out what is your job worth and what is this new position, this potential position that you're looking for worth. You can look at search firms that have job descriptions on their websites. You can look at job postings. You can network with your association in your field, talk to other members of your association and find out what they're earning. You can just do a simple search on Google. For example, portfolio manager salaries in New York. And you can also research some specific websites that are dedicated to salary and compensation. So here are some of the websites. Payscale.com. Now, the thing about pay scale is you can look up the compensation for your current job title in your current city or a prospective job. You'll need to fill in a lot of information on pay scale to get to the final report of what the job is worth. So depending on how much time you have and you're willing to put in. But pay scale is a good place to find out about compensation. Other websites include salary.com, vault.com, Salary Expert, Indeed, Glassdoor. And there's also something called JobStar Central or Job Central. Often your local library will have guides on salaries. And as an example, the Sybil Library here in Manhattan is located on Madison Avenue between East 34th Street and East 35th Street. And they have a very big career center, chock full of books, information, and resources, as well as free presentations on your job search. So a good place to start, aside from going online, is your local library. Now, what about not-for-profits? How are you going to find out about not-for-profit organizations, associations, charities? Two places you can look. One is called GuideStar, and the other is called Charity Navigator. You will get basic information about the income, the revenue, the expenses. You can also see an IRS Form 990 that nonprofits have, and that will show the income and expenses and the salary of the CEO. When you go to Part 5 of Form 990, there will be a list of the officers, the directors, trustees, and key employees, and they will also indicate the salary level. So for example, if you're going to a not-for-profit and you want to understand, well, what's the salary range, even though your job title may not be listed on the IRS form, if you see that the CEO is earning $200,000 and the key employees are earning $125,000 or $150,000, if you're not going to be one of those key employees, you know that the salary is going to be much less. So it gives you a sense of the size of the organization, their revenue stream, and how much people are being paid. So what are you really making? The thing about salary is just one piece of your whole compensation package. Your package might also include a bonus, a profit sharing, a 401k with some matching, deferred compensation. Perhaps it includes stock options, transportation compensation. It might include tuition, reimbursement for tuition, vacation, sick leave, and other perks. You need to understand what you're earning now in terms of your total compensation before you start thinking about, well, what do I really want on the next job? It's not just about the salary. Here's just a sample of a level 1 financial analyst. You get a graph that says the low is 77,000 and the high is 124,000 and the average is 101,000. If you go to salary.com, you can put in the parameters and you can get a little graph. Okay, part 2, outshine and outlast the competition. Know where you stand. So let's say you go on an interview and you think it's going pretty well. How do you know whether you compare to the competition? Are you better than the competition? Are you just on the same level as the competition? You can ask the interviewer, how do I measure up? How do you feel about moving my candidacy forward? Now, it is a difficult question, and hiring managers don't often like to answer the question, and they'll say something like, well, I can't tell you about the other people who are candidates for this job. And you say, well, I'm not interested in their names or what they do, but I'd just like to know if there are any skills that I might be missing that other candidates might have. What you're trying to find out is, are you missing any skills? Are there any obstacles to your candidacy? Also, you need to find out, when are they making their decision? What's the time frame? Is it next week? Is it in a month? It's very important to know that because you need to keep the other balls in the air while you're looking for a job. And you need to follow up strategically to address concerns and offer any additional information. So you know that after every interview, and some jobs may take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 interviews, you need to follow up with an email to each person who's interviewed you, saying that you are interested in the job, reiterating what you told them during the interview, and saying that you can make a contribution to meet their bottom line. Or in the case of a not-for-profit, you can make a contribution to meeting their mission. All right, so let's say you get the offer. That's step 3. Now what? You've gone through the interview process, you get the offer. What's the next step? Never negotiate on the spot. Always say you need time to think about the offer. You can say, oh, I'm really interested in this job. I'd love to work for you, but I need some time to think about it. Can you give me 24 hours to think about it, or 48 hours? If it's on Friday, ask for the weekend to think about it. I like to tell the story of a job that I went for many, many years ago, early on in my career. And they offered me $33,000 on a Friday. And I said, well, I really want to work for you, but I'd like to think about it. Can I get back to you on Monday? And they said, sure. So when I got back to them on Monday, I said, well, I really want to work for you. What can you do for me? I didn't give a number. And they came back with $44,000. So that was a 30% increase. In those days, that was a lot of money. So it's always good to say you want to think about the offer and then get back and then have a discussion. So here are some ways to have that discussion. So if it's way out of line, meaning it's way too low, that needs a different answer. If it's way too high, they may not want to negotiate with you. So the rule of thumb is if the difference between what you want and what they're offering you is less than 30%, maybe you can negotiate a solution. If you can't negotiate and you want 150 and they're only going to offer you 100 and they're not budging, well, you may have to walk away. All right, so if it's less than 30% difference, you need to respond either by phone or by email with positive framing, getting more information about the offer, which includes not only salary, but also the other benefits. And you need to make an appointment to discuss the whole offer in person with the hiring manager, not someone from human resources, unless that's the job you're going for. But if you're not going for a job in human resources, you need to talk directly to the person who's making the decision and has control over the money, the salary for that position. So what's the positive framing? In your email, you can say, I appreciate your thinking of me for this role, and I know I'll enjoy working for you. I'll be able to add the value that you're seeking. Second step is getting information. I look at this as a long-term opportunity, so I would really like to understand what it is I'm accepting, including the base, the bonus, the matching, the benefits, the health care, the leave, the vacation. And then your third step in this email is to make an appointment to discuss all of the above with the hiring manager. Again, it's very important that you're discussing it with the hiring manager, the person that's going to make the final decision. Don't say, I want to discuss salary. Rather say, I want to discuss the job to ensure that we're both set up for success. An in-person meeting is always better than an email or a phone call because they see the effort. They see that you're engaged, that you're passionate, that you want to work for them. And there's always better communication when you can see someone eye to eye. Now, what if they give you a high offer? Will they have much higher expectations? Will they cut you first because the salary is so high and they have unrealistic expectations? That's something to think about. All right, so let's say you get to the meeting. Framing is key. It's never about what I want. It's always about what we. How can we work together? What can we do to make this work? You want to be on the same side of the table as the person you're talking to because you want to work with them to make this into a win-win, both for you and for the company. Now, I'm not going to go through this list of negotiables, just to let you know that everything is negotiable. And in this list, you can pick out your must-haves, you'd like to haves, and nice to haves. So when you go into negotiation, you need to know in the back of your mind, what are the things that you absolutely must have that you will not give up? And what are some things that you would like to have, but if they don't give them to you, that's okay. They won't be a deal breaker. Other things that are negotiable: vacation, your start date, severance. Even though you're starting the job, if you've got a C-suite job or a high-level manager job, an executive type job, you want to know, well, what's the outcome of this? Okay, what is the end game? If you're relocating to another city, will they pay for relocation? Will they pay for home buying trips? Will they pay for temporary housing? Will they pay for outplacement assistance for your spouse? Some companies do that. When they lay people off and they negotiate a severance package, they also help the spouse with his or her job search. Signing bonuses. Now, most companies that are not-profit will not give you a signing bonus, and not all companies that are for-profit do. But in the end, if you can't get the base salary that you're looking for, you may ask for a sign-on bonus, which is a one-time deal. Companies often use the bonus as a way to hold down costs because it's only a one-time, one-shot deal. They give it to you as a perk for joining their organization, but that doesn't mean you're going to get that every year. You need to think about how strong your position is compared to the competitors. Could you be replaced? What are you worth in the marketplace? Do you have alternatives? Do you have other offers on the table or other irons in the fire that you're working on towards an offer? Are you willing to walk away? Now, some types of organizations do not have a lot of flexibility for negotiating. Government agencies, their jobs are pretty much set in salary ranges. Law practices don't like to spend a lot of money, so their salaries tend to be low. The military, once again, the military is government and there are set ranges for each job title. Nonprofits, some have more flexibility and some have less flexibility. But once you know the lay of the land by looking at the income statements and what the key people are earning, then you have a better sense of how much money you could earn. And union-based positions as well. So, what are the keys to a successful negotiation? Research, that's your best friend. It's not about what you want, it's about what's fair, based upon the job title, the industry, and the geographic location. And you can share your research with the people interviewing you. Here's what Glassdoor says: other people get paid for this job title in this city. Or my colleagues at your competitor are making such and such. Frame it positively, be on the same side as the people in the company, and talk about what we can do together. Every negotiation for salary compensation has 4 numbers that are floating around. Your low number is the least amount of money you will accept, and your high is the amount you'd like to earn, but you know that may be a pipe dream. The company has their low number, the lowest amount of money they'd like to be able to pay you, and the company has their high number, the highest they're willing to pay you. So remember, the first number that a company throws out is not their high number. They're going to start at their low number. There's always room to negotiate. So here's some more strategy. Give a nickel to get a dime. What does that mean? Alternate between things you're willing to give up in order to get the things you want. So if you start with a couple of easy items that you can give them, such as, well, I'd really like to get paid to go to continuing education courses, and if that's not that important to you, and they say no, okay. Or, you know, I'd really like 4 weeks vacation. And they say, no. So you start with things that they may say no to, and then you come up with harder things. So salary may not be the first thing you bring up. It may come later. You want to make sure you're getting your 401k. You want to make sure you're getting medical, dental, vision benefits. Vacation should be near the end because they want to know that you're thinking about work. So don't bring up vacation at the beginning of your negotiation. And then severance is the very last thing you want to talk about. So often in an interview process, the interviewer will ask you, what salary are you looking for? Now, there are 3 ways to answer this question. The first time they ask it, if they haven't given you the offer yet, you say, well, I know you're going to be fair. Second time they ask the question, what salary are you looking for? You can say, I'm more interested in learning about the roles and responsibilities and how you will measure success in this position. And then we can talk about salary. And then if they ask you the third time, what salary are you looking for? You can say, well, I've done my research, and this title in this industry, in this city, earns, and give a wide range. And if you're giving the range, you need to make sure that the bottom number of your range is a number you're willing to accept. So you can say, well, it's in the range of 75 to 100K, or it's in the range of 100 to 150. Now, the best thing is to wait for them to give a number. Don't throw out a number if you can help it. You want the company to give the number first. Okay, let's say the number that you give out is higher than what you originally said. You can say, well, now that I better understand the role, and we both understand the value I bring to you and your company, I believe this is what I'm worth. I've done additional research, and I found that the market rate for this role and the value I bring are X. I'm looking for what's fair, which to me is the market rate. And you can always share with them your research. Are you set up for success? Make sure you're set up before you accept the job. Okay, what does setting up for success mean? In the same negotiation, usually, you decide if this part goes before or after compensation. It's normal to ask for, well, what are the expectations of this role? How will success be measured? It's also normal to ask to meet other people, stakeholders, other staff people, other people on the team. It's also normal to ask to alter expectations for success after you've had meetings with other people. And you can negotiate your resources, not only your individual compensation, but what will your budget be to run? What will your staffing be? All right, so let's summarize the 4 steps, and then we're going to go on to some key tips for negotiation. This 4 steps to salary negotiation is to build your negotiation on a strong foundation of what you can do for the company based upon your accomplishments on previous jobs and the results you've obtained. The second step is to do your research using Glassdoor, Vault.com, other websites, so that you're prepared with the marketplace norms for the salary and benefits of your job title in your industry, in your city. Never throw out the first number. Take time to think over the offer. Always ask for time to think about it. And make sure to find out exactly what your roles and responsibilities will be and how you will be evaluated and how often you'll be evaluated. So, 14 tips to negotiation, whether it's for salary or a bicycle or an apartment or anything else. Always let the other side talk first. Their first offer could surprise you, might be better than what you expected. 13, no one is going to show you all their cards. You have to figure out what they really want. Negotiation is a game. Debrief after every major session. Figure out what you learned about them, what you've told them. A dream is a bargain, no matter what you pay for it. Set the scene, tell the tale, generate excitement. Help the other side visualize the benefits that you're going to bring to them. A deal can always be made when both parties see their own benefit. So it's benefiting you, it's benefiting them. More tips. Be nice, but if you can't be nice, walk away, let someone else do the deal. Beware the late dealer. Feigning indifference or casually disregarding timetables is a way of saying the person doesn't care if you make the deal. So sometimes someone will wait and wait and wait and leave you hanging. So maybe you don't want that deal. Rehearse, practice. Get someone to play the other side before you go into a real interview. Then switch roles. Instincts are no match for preparation. Do your homework before you do a deal. Learn as much as you can about the other side. Okay. Just because a term is printed in a standard contract does not mean it can't be changed. And this should be changed as a typo. If you can't say yes, it's a no. Just because a deal can be done, it doesn't mean it should be done. Never cut a deal with someone who has to go back and get the boss's approval. You want to make sure you're talking with the decision maker. Never negotiate with yourself. What does that mean? Once you've made an offer, if the other party doesn't accept it, don't make another offer. Get a counter offer. And last but not least, never accept any proposal immediately, no matter what the proposal is. And that goes for job offers. No matter how good it sounds, always ask for 24 hours to think about it. So a few more tips before we go into the Q&A. Aim for a win-win situation. Know the company's pay scales and the industry's pay scales. Know what you want. Know what you're willing to do without. Negotiate only one point at a time, starting with easy points. Negotiate base pay first, and then points the employer can easily agree to, and save for last the issues of conflict. Care, but not too much. If you look desperate, you won't do a good job of negotiating for yourself. Try to get the other side to state the first bid. If they say, how much do you want? You say, how much are you offering? And if pressed, try to give a range that includes perks and benefits. If the manager makes you an unacceptable offer, talk about the job. Look disappointed. Say how enthusiastic you are about the position and the company and the possibility of doing great things. You can say, gee, everything looks great. I can't wait to start, but my only reservation is compensation. What can you do for me? See what they say. Don't be rigid or demanding. Don't get ruffled or upset. Don't get confrontational. Don't get sarcastic. Try to maintain a tone of speech that's businesslike, positive, and calm. Think about open-ended questions like, can you think of anything else we can do to bring our positions closer together? Thank you very much. And now it's open for questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amy. I'll remind everyone, if you have a question, you can use the chat box or you can email info@savvyladies.org. And I saw through our chat box we have a comment here that says, it's ideal to wait until an offer to discuss salary, but online applications make it a required step to state your expected salary or range. It's becoming law for employers to not ask what your salary is, but provide the employer's expected range. Do you have some comments on that, Amy?
Great question. We see this all the time with online applications, and this is how you game the system. When it asks for a specific number for salary, you can put in the number 100 or 1,000 and then go on. You don't need to put in exactly what you're looking for, because your number will either be too low and they'll say, well, this person can't do the job. They're asking for too little money. Or your number will be too high and they'll say, oh, this person wants too much money. We're not going to even look at their resume. That's how you do it.
Okay, thank you. A question for you is asking, what is your opinion on negotiating while accepting a job offer versus waiting for that first annual review?
You have to negotiate up front. If you wait for the first review, you're stuck with what you've got, and you may not be able to get up to the amount that you want in a year's time. The first time you negotiate is when you are offered the position. Before you start, that's your time to negotiate, because every raise above that will be based on your initial base salary. Next question.
Okay, the next one is asking, how can you negotiate for vacation? Currently, I have 4 weeks vacation and I don't want to lose that perk.
Okay, good question. Many jobs will start, most people, no matter what level, at 2 weeks. Sometimes, if you're lucky, they start at 3 weeks. So how do you want to negotiate vacation? Is there something else that you can give back? Okay. Is there something else to say, well, I'll do such and such for you, and in exchange, I'll get another week's vacation? So you need to think about what are some of the other benefits that you're willing to give up to get that vacation. And if they really don't want to give you the 4 weeks with pay, and you need 4 weeks, you might want to think about, well, maybe I'll take 3 weeks with pay and 1 week without pay. Which is more important, getting paid for the vacation or getting the 4 weeks? You need to think about that.
Okay. Do you have time for a few more questions? I think I see
Go right
two more
ahead.
that have
Sure, I
come in.
do.
Okay, great. This question is saying, how much does experience weigh in as a plus?
Depends on your job title, your industry, your city. All right? Experience is great. The important thing is, what have you accomplished? When I work with my clients, the most important thing we spend time on is accomplishments. What problems have you solved? What actions have you taken? And what results did you get? Just writing about a job description is not good enough, and talking about your responsibilities on the job is not good enough. You need to show that you can get results. So if you have 20 years of experience doing the same thing, or you have 10 years of experience doing a lot of different things, it's not how long you've had the experience, is what you've done with it.
Okay, great. This question is saying, my current role allows for flexible work arrangements, schedule, work from home, etc. How can you inquire about getting the same in your next role?
You need to find out, first of all, in the job description, if it says you can telecommute, okay, or if hours are flexible. You can also look on other websites, such as Glassdoor, to find out what people are saying about the company. Are they flexible? Do they have telecommuters? Then what you can do is, again, when you talk about, once you get the offer, you can say, well, I'd really like to work from home. Don't say I want to work from home 5 days a week. Just say, I'd really like to work from home. How does that fit in here? You know, how would that work here? And if they say absolutely no, then there's a couple of things you can do. One thing is, you can say, okay, to yourself, I'll work here for 6 months, and then after 6 months, and they see that how productive I am, then you can go back and renegotiate and say, you know, I'd like to work from home 1 day a week or 2 days a week. My almost daughter-in-law is working for a major hospital and was in New York, and she was working at the hospital, and then she said she'd like to work from home, and they allowed her to work from home 2 days a week. Then she and my son moved to Austin, Texas, and she was able to keep her job with this major New York hospital in Austin, Texas, and she said, can I work 5 days a week from home? And they said yes. So again, everything's negotiable, but it may not be negotiable at the beginning. But if you're only interested in jobs that are with flex hours and allow you to work from home, then you need to find that out before you even waste your time on the interview process. Next question.
All right, this is the last question for you, Amy. It's asking, I'm a young professional just starting out in my career. Can I still negotiate my salary when I really don't have much experience to talk about?
Once again, you need to do the research to find out what is the salary of a person who does that particular job with no experience, okay, entry level, for a particular job title in a particular industry in a particular city. And then you see the range of that job in that industry in that city. You can't negotiate something if you haven't done the research. You can show them the research and say, well, I've done my research, and for this position with someone with very little experience like me, this is the going rate.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you, Amy, for an excellent presentation, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today and asking lots of questions. We will be sending out Amy's contact information as well as this recording. We hope you'll be joining us again, and thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. This was great. Good afternoon, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks.